Thank you. Thank you to the people who told me that my first attempt at this wasn't working. I hope this is working now. It reminds me so many moments of my my life where this first or the second or the third or the fifth or the 20th time where you applied to law school doesn't work, you know? And people tell you, at first, they tell you at least, you know, keep trying. It's only the first, you know, nobody, like, a lot of people don't get in. A lot of people don't get in when they first apply to law school. Most people, probably, most people, they tell you. And they have to hide the cake where it says congratulations. But you see it. When it gets the 5th or the 17th time you don't get in, then it becomes like they start to expect that you shouldn't get in. So this is, I guess, what streaming is as well. But anyway, what I wanted to do was fly between a couple of places, I guess, near and dear to my heart. Number one being not Stewart. I don't want Stewart. So I didn't go to school or anything. I flew a lot, kind of freelance, I guess you would call it, freelance flying between different places, and I don't think a lot of them aren't marked here. But this would be kind of a general flight path for me. This is a bit too long though, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna take something that's a little bit more normal. Yeah, like something like this kind of was a lot of the flights that I took were like this. And we're just gonna have fun. I just, yeah, streaming of video games and all that stuff is really in the now. It's very, you know, it's very in. So this is kind of annoying. Sometimes there is somebody in front of you, and if it's on the field, if it's just, you know, Uncle Jack with the lawnmower or whatever, or if it's a bigger plane, that's fine as well. You can usually dodge them. You can usually I don't fly it this way. I don't fly from Miami, or didn't when I used to fly from Miami to Colombia or whatever, any place. Really, they tracked me down doing the other kind of leg. So from Latin America, I would fly to Miami. That's what I would do, and I would never really contact the radio. That's not my style, and it wasn't how I was taught to do stuff. It was, again, like, I come from a very puritanical background. Let's get the flaps retracted as well. I come from a very puritanical background in terms of, like, just, you know, let's not be noticed. Let's just get this stuff done. You don't need to talk to the authorities or radio contact of any kind. The flights were very sudden. It would be, we need to leave today. They would get me out of school. They would put me in the back with the other kids or the other men, mostly men, a lot of men. The other men with the packages, and we would fly, you know, and it was very, I would have to learn, and I would crawl through the plane towards the pilot seat to, you know, to learn how to fly. And I should have, you know, in hindsight, I'm thinking now, maybe, especially because you can't even really see anything on the screen, I'm thinking maybe, but hey, we can talk stories. You can talk stories, and a lot of people are asking me about how I lost the pilot's license and how I lost the plane, which are kind of related. My ex-wives, I have 3 ex-wives, and they did this kind of a surprise thing where they kind of had this class action lawsuit against me, where I didn't realize that you could bunch them together. This kind of a divorce hearing, you could, like, I guess it's one of those things where you just want to get a bunch done in a day, so you put them all together and you have this, like, 3-for-1 kind of thing against me. All of the ex-wives had this lawsuit against me where it's my fault, and they, you know, obviously I in terms of me flying under the influence or anything. I had quite a huge addiction to catnip at the time, and when you're flying a plane and you're addicted to catnip, it really tends to kind of throw things to one side. That's not good in a plane. There's a lot of jiggly jaggly kind of things, buttons to be punched, and if you're not paying attention, it's very easy to kind of do an abrupt landing, I would call it in the trade, an abrupt landing in a children's library or something, which I've always been against that kind of elitism. A library should be for everybody, and that's what I tried to argue in court, that the library that I hit, which was a children's library with my plane, should have been just a general library, which was a very nasty thing that the prosecutor did, which is to kind of frame that as an almost terrorist thing, which that wasn't my point. Anyway, I'm going to show a different part of the world, and we'll just see if I can find something with a little bit more hope. Again, my co-pilot is telling me to lift off way early, and as I said before, I like to really take my time. The runway is there for a reason, and it's yours, you know. And I like to really branch it out and branch my plane out. And I've taken off plenty of fields and plenty of rainforests where really the speed or the area of the runway was limited. So if I get this nice LA runway, I'm gonna use it. Don't need a lot of that stuff that they put in there, you know. You don't need a lot of that stuff. And I like to wave here if a plane is flying overhead, and I like to kind of follow them and see where they're going, you know, take a gander. This is how I used to fly, you know. This is how I learned to fly. Low. Swing low. Sweet chariots, you know. That's what my flight instructor used to say. Swing low and don't let the missiles hit. After the 3 divorces that happened at the same time, I really lost a lot of liquidity and liquids. Just a bunch of, I lost a bunch of stuff. They took my cat, which is a weird thing. I try to argue this in court as well, that it's much easier for one person to look after the cat instead of these 3 women. They're gonna have to have a schedule and have to deal with all this stuff, and it's much easier if there's just this one guy, you know. The judge didn't really want to hear it. They were really against me, you know, and I think I don't want to say it. It's you know, we're in a different era, but I do think it's a kind of a woke issue, you know. I think it is something to do with that. But yeah, the divorce was finalized. I'm not mad about it. Like, it's fine, and I've got my grandma's apartment that I live in. She's renting it to me, and I do have to keep it quiet actually because she's upstairs. But otherwise, she's a very reasonable woman, and she don't quite like is that she doesn't like. She's not she doesn't believe in hot water, and I said, Nana, how what does that mean? You don't believe in hot water? It's there, like you can use it. And she said, no, it's like it's some sort of a modern. She said it's demonic. Like, she wants to see the water be heated up, you know. She wants to see how it gets hot. So do you believe in like water that you boil yourself? And she said, yeah, that's fine. She just doesn't want it, you know, coming out of her tap. So that's all gone. I can take cold baths, I guess. I've lived in places where after the divorce was finalized, I didn't really have a specific spot, so I was standing on a lot of street corners. If you can look on the left there, that's one of them. I think on that, yeah, next to that big tree, I had like a kind of a semi-permanent kind of a box of cardboard that I shared with a guy called Fred. A nice guy, a very nice guy that I met just kind of randomly. He kind of just left, which was odd. And the morning that he left, actually, I woke up, and we usually kind of sleep together. And in the morning he left, I looked at my at what was written under my heel, and he'd written, I hope you didn't feel anything. But he's a nice guy. Gave me a lot of pointers about like, yeah, a lot of pointers about baseball mostly. It was useless when you're homeless, fucking useless. It's been up and down, you know, up and down like life is. And one moment you have 3 wives and you're living in a mansion, and in the next year you're living with your nana, and she mostly just likes to eat porridge, microwaved porridge. And I've said many times, can we put some butter, like anything really? It's a lot of microwave porridge, and I've tried to sneak butter in, but it melts, you know, and melts away, and it just like. But yeah, so yeah, the wives took the cat, which honestly a relief. It's a constant, you know, a constant presence in your life that doesn't really go away. Other elements in your life, your friends, they leave and they kind of give up on you, but the cat didn't, you know, the cat was always there and didn't leave, you know, and the cat didn't care. You know, what choice do you have? You've got the microwave porridge and you've got the cold water, and you're happy. You're just happy for that. Just happy that you have anything. So yeah. When things are looking up, I think next year, I'm hoping to take some coding lessons, which I understand the coding stuff has kind of been replaced by AI, but it's something, and it's court mandatory. I can't, you know, choose not to do it, so that's nice.